Hi, everyone. Welcome to Prescription for Change. I am your board certified family physician, Dr. Warden Jarrett, or simply Dr. J. And I'm here today, along with some friends of mine, to simply dispel some of the myths that are circulating out in the atmosphere about the COVID-19 vaccine. Well, we want to get them into the studio. So let's welcome Amy Brown. We have Gregory Boyajian and Kaisha Flash. And these are all special scientists in their own special way. And we're going to take some time today to just talk about this vaccine because our main purpose today is not to force you. We can't force you to do anything, but we believe that we want you to make a decision on a platform solid in scientific information. When I was a kid, we used to sing a song called Information, like the foolish man built his house on the sand, and when the rains came, it washed the house away. But the wise man built his house on a rock. And so we want our information that we give you today to help you build your scientific platform on a rock so that you can make a well-informed decision. So let us talk about some of these myths. Let's ask Amy. Amy, talk to us. What are some of the myths that you have heard people talking about?
I have heard people say that they think they can get COVID from the COVID vaccine.
I've heard that as well. Greg, what about yourself?
Afraid that the vaccine, sorry, I think my mic must have been muted. But anyway, one of the things I've heard recently is that people are concerned about the vaccine causing infertility.
Aha. Kaisha, have you heard any rumors out there?
Not necessarily, just more so issues with trust. They're not sure if they can trust what the government says, and just having precedence with various things like the syphilis issue that happened a long time ago, and then just hearing conflicting information from those in politics, etc. So it's more so an issue of trust.
So we have trust issues. We have people out there thinking that there's a tracer. We have people saying, my goodness, this thing was just like created so fast. I don't want that in me. And so I have a question to ask my listeners today. Can you see a virus? Like when you go out shopping, when you go out and about, do you know that? Can you see the viruses that are out on the surface? No, you cannot see the viruses, but we all know that they are there. And once they get into your body, they can cause harm. And in general, vaccines help to kind of boost your immune system. So what we want to do is talk a little bit about some of these things to dispel some of those myths that you might have heard. I know Greg knows the answer to this. Greg is a fourth-year medical student at the University of Maryland. He's actually an aspiring cardiothoracic surgeon. He knows his stuff. Watch out. What's our doctor's name? Yes, there's a doctor out there that has this wonderful show, Dr. Oz. So we have to watch out, Dr. Oz, because Greg is coming. So Greg, can you talk to us just a teeny little bit about dispelling some of the myths, like any of the myths that you've heard?
Sure.
From what you've learned.
There's a couple things that I've heard people voice concern about. In general, I think that people are concerned about the vaccine being rolled out quickly. And I think that it's important to distinguish between what vaccines are FDA approved and what vaccines are CDC authorized. And so the COVID vaccines, if you have an opportunity to go get them, you'll probably be given an information sheet that says there's no approved vaccine for COVID-19. And that is true because the FDA requires a rigorous process by which vaccines are tested through multiple phases of clinical trials and before it's approved by the FDA. However, the CDC is able to give some what's called emergency use authorizations when we believe that the risk of allowing a vaccine to remain in development for multiple years is out of proportion with the risk of an unchecked pandemic that's already cost over 300,000 American lives. That's when the CDC can say, you know what, we believe that the efficacy of this vaccine has proven that this can really help stop the pandemic. And so there haven't necessarily been safety regulations that have been waived. However, there are the timeline is just a little bit more compressed, and we think that the risks of keeping the vaccine from the public are not in the public's best interest at this time.
Mm-hmm. Excellent point. So, it's important that you guys go and get the education and the information that you need. Now, Amy is a nurse, and she has worked in the trenches, first line, since the beginning of this pandemic. And I told someone the other day, like, we would totally be crippled as a society without nurses. So we want to give Amy a platform today to first thank her for her timeless effort. She's a mom, she's got kids, she's a wife, she's just like you and me, trying to keep things in order, and yet she takes time to educate and get out there. So Amy, share with us your story.
Sure. I think that first and foremost, education and getting the correct information, the science-based information out to the community is so important. Helping people, empowering them to make their decision based on the facts. I have seen at my hospital, we have totally changed the way we have done everything. We have dedicated units just for our COVID patients. We built a dedicated freestanding unit over our parking garage to treat COVID patients. I have seen nurses pulled from everywhere in the hospital, labor and delivery, mother-baby nurses who are now going into the COVID units and helping care for these patients. It has just been, overwhelming to the healthcare system overall, and unbelievable what the doctors, the nurses, the techs, the therapists, the housekeepers all have to go through to take care of these patients. And the only way to stop this is to get people vaccinated and give them the information so they feel comfortable and confident to choose to get the vaccination.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And Kaisha, you're a scientist, and you work very diligently in evaluating. I call her a scientist. She does a little bit of everything. She does work at the NIH and is very involved in different research projects and things like that. But Kaisha, what would you say is the biggest hindrance that you're finding in your community at large for people who want getting this vaccine? Not speaking as a scientist or behalf of your employer, but just as on behalf of you.
On behalf of me only. But I think the biggest issue right now is the trust issue. Can they from the science communities or even their doctors? Some people right now are having issues with what will happen in the future. Will they grow extra ears or tails? I'm joking. But because, because of how quickly the vaccine happened, having these multiple vaccinations right now, they're just kind of concerned about, how quickly this came about, and if there's going to be any adverse reactions later on in the future. It's just a lot of questions and unknowns, and people are afraid, trying to protect their health. There's some people who are crippled by fear that don't want to go outside of their homes or do anything right now because, the fear, it's a real fear for them. But just the conflicting news, the news in particular, is just kind of unfortunate because at one point, the scientists and the doctors were held in this high regard. You are the experts. We're going to follow everything that you say. And the nurses, everybody in the medical community was, really respected for the information that's shared. But once that question mark came about, many people in the community have been having a lot of questions and are not sure if they even want to go out and get the vaccines.
Mm-hmm.
So,
No, go ahead.
Yeah.
If there's a way, and I've seen it on Facebook where some doctors, and some of my peers actually go and they show that they're getting the vaccinations and, telling, spreading almost like a message, it's not bad, I'm not growing anything. I'm okay. I believe in it. I trust in it. Just to kind of awaken the trust factor with people. I think that's good. But how can we rebuild the trust is, I think, the biggest thing right now.
I appreciate you saying that, Kaisha. How can we rebuild the trust? And we have a few of you who are listening live with us. We encourage you to put your comments in the chat section because we certainly can reach out to you and maybe answer a question here or there. But like many of you, when this vaccine came out, I had my questions and doubts too. I really did. And because it really did come out too fast. And as a physician, I know from the history of studying vaccines, they usually take a really long time to come out. But I can stand in front of you or really sit in front of you and look you directly in the eyes and say, I have been vaccinated. I've had my 2 vaccines. I'm feeling great, feeling well. And the question here is that usually when we talk about vaccines, you're thinking about like a dead virus or a piece of an activated virus coming into your body, and then your body mounts an immune system. But these are functioning a little different or differently. And it's kind of cool. Think of it this way. The vaccine has a secret encoded message. I mean, this is really just crazy stuff that's really cool. So the vaccine has a message, and then it's injected into your arm, the deltoid, that muscle right there. And then the body comes and looks at that deltoid message, and it's like, wait a minute, we have a secret message here in the arm. We better go up there and get it. And then they decode the message, or certain proteins that are decoded, and it forms this message. And the body takes that message or that map and then starts to make cells to mount an army, or like your police system or your military, so they can fight the COVID vaccine should you get exposed. And so the actual secret message or the code never enters into the DNA or the nucleus of the cell. That's important, because one of the myths out there is like, oh, it's going to mess with my DNA. It's going to, turn me into a zombie. This is the apocalypse. No. This is a secret message that basically helps make your body build an immune system without you getting exposed to a whole lot of preservatives and different things. So that's a very cool thing. And then the coolest thing is, after the body comes and takes the message and starts the process of building this code and building these cells, it destroys the original message. Okay, I think that is really, really cool. And so over time, then you get your first vaccine, your body builds a little response. Then it gives it a few weeks to build up more of a response, and you kind of get that booster in either 3 weeks or 4 weeks, depending on of the available vaccines today, which one you received. So do any of our panelists have anything to add to that? I know at least 3 of the 4 here today have already been vaccinated. So does anyone have to share about their personal experience with that?
I can tell you that I didn't feel too great after my second shot. However, I had, maybe some body aches for a couple hours, and I went to bed early, and I woke up the next day and I saw you in clinic, Dr. Warden Jarrett, and I felt great. And I can tell you that my experience with the second vaccine has been vastly better than my friends' experience who've actually gotten COVID. And I would take the vaccine 1,000 times over again than, getting COVID and risking the long-term effects of what potentially may happen, if I had a full-blown COVID infection.
Well stated. Well stated. Does anyone else want to comment on this section?
I had the same response sort of after my first shot, no problems, just a sore arm. My second shot, a sore arm the next day for about 24 hours. I didn't feel well. I ran a little bit of a fever, had some body aches. But again, I hands down would take that 1,000 times over getting COVID and seeing and knowing what these patients are going through.
Well stated, Amy. I mean, if you guys have seen people, or I'm sure this has been a deadly virus, deadly. And so most of us, granted the vaccines, we may not know everything, but what we do know is that they were created to help us and to help our bodies fight a terrible disease. And we've all seen what not having the vaccine can do, as evidenced by all the hundreds of millions of deaths worldwide. It's a tragedy. And so our purpose of our program today was simply to provide you with some education so that you can go and do some more additional research on your own. Go digging. Don't just take what's out there as a myth or a legend as fact. Go look for yourself so that when you make your decision to vaccinate or not to vaccinate, that literally is the question, that you can walk boldly with confidence, knowing that you have done your due diligence, you've done research, and you're making a decision that you feel is best for you at this moment in time. We certainly hope, I see one other comment that's come through, so let's see if we can pull this comment in. All right. Hi, Dr. J. Did you have side effects? I had my first vaccine yesterday. My arm is sore. So the first vaccine, I was fine. My arm was a little sore, which is to be expected because you remember there's a secret message being injected into that big muscle of your arm. And so when the cells come to get, and plus you're putting a needle, which is like a foreign body, into your arm with just that shot. So that can cause a little local irritation and some soreness. So yes, I had that, which is a well-stated side effect. And then it was after the second vaccine that I didn't feel so good, but it only lasted about a day and Tylenol fixed it. I went to work. I was fine. I probably would recommend people who have the option after the second vaccine to maybe take the day off so you can just be in bed and relax. But you certainly, depending on your job and the physical demand of your job, can work the day after the second vaccine. But it's the second one that we have to prep for. I'm glad that Edward Washington was able to get his vaccine. Kudos for you. And for those of you who have not gotten your vaccine, go to your local state health departments, get on those registries, get on the list. Be patient with your state wherever you are. I know if you're in Maryland, the process has been a little challenging, but they're making efforts in all the counties to make sure that we can get everyone vaccinated. It will take time. It will take time. So going through that list of priorities is the way we have to do it. You know, the group 1A, B, 1C, all the way down. But just get on that list and keep learning. There are even more vaccines scheduled to come out, Johnson & Johnson. So just stay tuned. All right. We hope that you have enjoyed this time with us. We hope to get more programs out like this to you to enhance your knowledge base. I want to thank each of the participants for taking some time out of their schedule to join us today. Thank you to Amy. Thank you to Greg, as well as Kaisha. And until next time, this is Dr. J with your RX for Change, or prescription for change. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.